Well, hey, look who's back.
Hey!
And we're glad to have you back, John. And we're glad to have the Angels back. Maybe after a much-needed day off, they can actually break this 5-game losing streak. Except we're playing the American League best team. We're playing the Yankees. So, well, we always play them well. So hopefully this new road trip will actually be a good road trip for us. We're going to talk all about that. Plus, John's going to share some details from his trip to Chicago. That's where he was at. He toured Wrigley Field. He's going to compare it to the Big A. And we're going to talk about Taylor Ward and why we think that he is the Angels MVP. You're locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. If you're listening on the audio side, you can rate and review the pod. It helps people find Locked On Angels. And if you're watching on the video side, you can actually subscribe and be notified every time a new episode hits.
Hey, it's good to be back. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us here on Locked On Angels. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my returning triumphant brother John.
You got the Frisch Brothers, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros here with you. You can reach us at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. And, of course, as always, you can reach us at Locked On Angels if you want to reach out to the pod. We're happy to be back together for this one. I know, Mike, that you had to have an episode to yourself to talk about the Halos, and it was not very fun, not just because I wasn't here, but because it hasn't been fun being a Halo fan right now.
I had to talk about how the Angels had lost 5 in a row, and I had nobody to discuss it with except for those that were listening. So I need you. I need you back. We need some hope. We need some help.
We had some really great comments and questions for you, and I thought that you did a great job. I do have a bone to pick with you, though, about the City Connect jerseys. You said they look like softball league jerseys.
Yes. What do you think?
You stand by that?
I stand firm. What do you think?
Well, listen, there is a connection to Huntington Beach, Jack's Surfboards, which has been in business since 1957.
Okay.
And if you look at the logo of Jack's, it's got the diamond pattern, which is what the Angels are wearing on their jerseys with the numbers on there. And then the font of the Angels logo across the front also kind of is reflective of that surf beach vibe from Jack. So just an FYI, just not, you can have your opinion, even though it's wrong, but you can have your opinion. And I thought that was a really great connection because, like you said, what do we connect to the city of Anaheim? Oranges, Disney, and the Angels.
Right.
and so I think that to lean into the surf culture, I thought was pretty cool. So I think that once we see them on the players and once we get a better look at them instead of that sneak peek, maybe we'll enjoy them a bit more. And since it's a kind of an exclusive thing, I think I might have to pick up a hat or a shirt or something like that, which is something I did when I was in Chicago. Picked myself up a Seiya Suzuki t-shirt.
Mike Trout fan.
It's got Suzuki on the back. I know. That's why I got it. I had to get 27, but it's got Suzuki's name on the back written in Japanese, which I thought was pretty cool.
That is awesome.
So I'll talk all about that coming up, but we have a big series against the Yankees.
We do.
Starting today, and we are in the Bronx. Now, of course, last season we had that amazing comeback game in the rain delay game where Shohei did not start well, but the Angels picked him up. And of course, Jared Walsh hit that game-tying grand slam off of Aroldis Chapman. We're still talking about that because that was Jared Walsh's coming out party in terms of being a guy who's here to stay. And I thought that was an important talking point as we cover this Yankees series. Plus, Mike Trout has not played at Yankee Stadium since 2018, Mike.
Really?
And the reason why is because they had a trip there in 2018 and they did not go to the Bronx in 2019. The Yankees came here. They played 4 games against the Angels. But they did not play in Yankee Stadium in 2019. Pandemic season, of course, nobody played out of their division. They played the National League West and the AL West.
Right.
And so we stayed on this side of the country. And then last season, Mike Trout had his injury, and so he did not play in Yankee Stadium. And the last time he played, well, I should say the last series. Let me give you some stats.
Okay.
Mike Trout had his big game against the Yankees on May 26th, 2018, where he went 5 for 5 with 3 doubles, a home run, and 4 RBIs.
Wow.
Mike Trout loves playing at Yankee Stadium, and I hope that we see some more of that from Mike Trout in this series.
We're going to need a lot of that because the Yankees are actually really good. And the good news is the Angels always play the Yankees really well.
They do.
Right?
They play up, right?
We do play up. And so we begin that series today. Here's their record, 33-15. They did lose 2 in a row to Tampa Bay. So that record still looks fantastic, but it could have been better if they actually took the series from Tampa.
I would kill for 2 losses in a row instead of 5.
That's true. Now, here's where they're tough. 17-7 at home in that Little League park that they play in up there.
Thank you, Chris Woodward.
and their SRS, this measures how good a team actually is, how many more runs they score than other teams. The Yankees are the best American League team. They have a 1.2 SRS. They're 1.2 runs better than every other American League team right now. So, and then here's the big names, right? I'm going to start with Stanton, Giancarlo Stanton, who has just the strangest batting stance, but makes contact and hits the ball to the moon almost every single time.
Right.
So he has 11 home runs, 35 RBIs, and his OPS is 862. But it's Aaron Judge, actually, that we all need to rise to, because Aaron Judge has 18 home runs, 35 RBIs, and listen to this, an OPS of 1.045, John.
Wow. The rightful MVP of 2017, right? Instead of Jose Altuve. Should have been Aaron Judge. I can even say that as an Angel fan that it should have been Judge's year that season. But
should have been Judge.
What a guy. He is having a tear right now, and he's having a season. And he's always been very good, and it's great to see that he's having this success this season. And it's kind of interesting because the conversation around Judge is extending him, getting him a new contract. And I think I recently saw him quoted as saying, you know what? I just need to focus on winning. We can talk about contract later on. But man, that guy, he's the anchor. He's the Mike Trout of the Yankees, in my opinion.
He is. And I think that locking him up would be a great idea. I think that they're hesitant just simply because he does have some injury history, which is interesting because a lot of people will say that Mike Trout is injury prone. But if you look at Trout and the games he's played and compare it to Aaron Judge, Trout has played so many more games and has actually performed a whole lot better and more consistently over a period of time. And he's played obviously a few seasons more than Aaron Judge has, but that's the interesting narrative around Mike Trout when he really hasn't been right. He hasn't been that hurt, but Judge has missed a lot of time. But here's the thing about Judge, when he's in there, he is dangerous. And those stats prove that.
Can I just remind everybody, and I don't mean to get grim here, but number one, Mike Trout and Jessica Trout had a baby in 2020. So he took some time off for that. Then when the Angels were not going to win anything in 2020, he didn't play the last few games. 2019, or maybe it was 2018, and this is horrible, heartbreaking. His brother-in-law passed away.
Right.
And he took some time off for that.
Yeah.
So when people just look at the games played and see, oh, he doesn't have that many in a season, well, you're wrong. Because he's had good reasons to take time off. So let's get that conversation and that anecdote out of your mind, because Trout only had one injury-filled season last season. 2017, he hurt his finger and thumb, I should say, and he missed a lot of games in 2017. Yes, correct. Yeah. That happened. Congratulations. But
wow, but Chicago John is feisty. I'm feisty. This is really good.
I had some deep dish and I'm ready to roll.
Well, speaking of getting ready to roll, Noah Syndergaard's on the mound for us on Tuesday, and
I like that
against Jordan Montgomery. Jordan's numbers 0-1, 3.30 ERA. Then Wednesday, it's Detmer's Day. And he's playing against a guy, Nestor Cortez, who has really kind of caught fire this year, and he's really won the fans over because of his hustle and because of his energy and because of his spirit. I love it. 4-1, 1.70 ERA, and that'll be an interesting game. Both of those guys are young guys looking to do well. And then you got Thursday Ohtani versus Jameson Taillon. See, you're even better at pronouncing names.
This is why I got to be here.
He's 5-1, 2.49 ERA. And so, I mean, it's going to be a good pitching matchup for the Angels. And we're hopeful that we do actually rise to the occasion. And speaking of rising to the occasion, one note that I've noticed about Yankee players, John, is that no matter who they get, Yankees have the ability to get players, and then those players, I don't know if they just turn the volume up. I don't know if it's something about being in the pinstripes, but
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
they end up playing better, right? Like Tino Martinez is an example of that. He wasn't bad with the Mariners, but he actually played really well with the Yanks. And then Scott Brocious, who came over from Oakland and then played for New York, he wasn't great in Oakland, but in New York, he ended up becoming a hero. And then this year they signed Matt Carpenter just recently, and Carpenter's not bad, but he's on the tail end of his career. First at bat, hits a home run.
Yeah, he's had an incredible carear, and of course, he's just not the same as he used to be because he's old. He's too old. Mike Carpenter, he's too old. But yeah, you're right. He comes on up on the Yankees and hits a home run in that first game, and even Josh Donaldson to some extent. He's not the spry young chicken he used to be, but he's contributing to this team.
Yeah,
and so there's a lot of guys who put on those pinstripes and just unlock. They get turned up to 11.
Right. It just seems like the Yanks know how to meet the needs of their team and fill the roles with the correct players. They know to not ask a player to not be what the player isn't, right? And I think it's the culture. I think there's something about the pinstripes that makes people go, I'm wearing the Yankee pinstripe. Babe Ruth wore this, and so I'm wearing this, and I'm going to perform well. So
didn't
that's
happen
interesting
to
about
Andrew
the
Heaney,
Yankees.
though.
It didn't happen to Andrew Heaney. No, it didn't. That's their one negative, right?
What? Another thing I think about the Yankees that's important is I know that they really tried with Gio Urshela, right? They really gave him a shot. And when they figured out it wasn't working, he's on the Twins now.
Yeah.
And he's having a decent season. But he just wasn't the right guy for that team. And they didn't hang on or hold on to him too much or, grit their teeth and grab on. They let him go. They let it happen. And they got Donaldson from that trade, and they traded somebody else too, who's always been part of that Yankee. Oh, this is the future. Well, they passed on that future. It was the catcher. I can't think of his name right now, but they're on the Twins, and it was just a move that they made because they realized it wasn't working. And I think that's the Yankees' advantage sometimes is they realize, oh, this isn't working with this guy, so it's time to move on. And it certainly worked out for them. Having the best record in the AL, this pitching staff is incredible. This is going to be quite the challenge. Hopefully Ohtani has a better Thursday than he did last season when he started that game. Yeah. And I think this will be his redemption game, if you will.
Well, coming up on Locked On Angels, John and I are going to talk about Taylor Ward, and we're going to share why we think that he's the Angels MVP. But Locked On Angels is brought to you by BetOnline. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. You can find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. You can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. BetOnline, where the game starts.
We want to say thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. You're going to get recaps of MLB games from the local experts and analysis from hosts like Mike and I, who host the other Locked On MLB shows, recapping games from your favorite teams, taking fans through the season like no other network. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, John, it's so good to have you back for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is I've already had like 3 drinks of my water while you're talking.
Take a breath.
I wasn't able to take a breath for like 30 minutes yesterday. So it's nice to have you back. But 2, your thoughts, your opinions, I appreciate. But I want to hear a little bit about Chicago. So tell us a bit about what you did, and then let's talk Wrigley Field and compare it to the Big A.
Absolutely. Well, I got to say that you got some good feedback from the listeners just handling that show by yourself yesterday. And if you guys don't know, Mike is a pastor full time, and you had some of your pastor voice come through while you were talking, just because you had to direct that conversation and you were talking to the listeners. I
almost did an altar call at the end of the show, and then I remembered I was doing Locked On Angels.
Well, listen, I went to Chicago with my wife. She had a business trip, and I got to tag along and got to meet her grandparents for the first time because they don't leave Chicago. And so they actually live in Decatur, I should say. Okay. And so because of the pandemic and everything, I never got to actually meet them in person. So that was fun. And so we got to play around a little bit, but one of the things that I wanted to do was go to Wrigley Field. And I was going to be okay with just taking a picture in front of the sign. And she said, no, we need to do the tour. So Abby, thank you for talking me into taking the tour. But man, so the tour was incredible. Our guide, his name was Noah. He started it off perfectly. He said, this place has a lot of history. My great-grandfather took my grandfather, who took my father, who took me to games.
Wow.
And I think that's the key to Wrigley Field is the history that's there. And now I know that the Big A is starting to have its own history. They did a little trivia fact. They said, it's Fenway and Wrigley Field and Dodger Stadium are the oldest 3 stadiums in MLB, but they left out the 4th, which is us.
The Big
We're
A.
the 4th oldest now, which is crazy to think about.
Wow.
So touring that place was incredible. We got to go in the visiting locker room, which was very underwhelming when you look at it. And it was actually smaller. It used to be smaller than it actually was when we went in there. But the tour guide, he made a good point of saying, think about all of the opposing teams who have used this locker room and have come in here. And you think about the greats like Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
And like Bo Jackson, right? So you think about all those people that came through and played against the Cubs were in that locker room. So that was a special moment. Got to sit in the press box and sit in Gordon Wittenmeyer's seat, which was funny. I took a picture of his name tag because he's the dweeb who wrote the article about Shohei Ohtani not being accessible to the media before the game. And we all piled on Twitter for that one. That was pretty funny.
Yep. What a
nerd. So I sat in his seat and kind of, did a little wiggle in that thing. But man, just to get on the field, to stand on the warning track and go in the dugout, Mike. I got to go in the dugout. I don't know if you saw my Joe Madden impression from the dugout. I was angry at the umpire for calling a low and away strike on Shohei. But that was incredible. But man, it feels like a ballpark. And when I say that, it's if you've never been to a game in your life and you close your eyes and imagine what a ballpark feels like, this is the place. And like they said, it's so much history. You just can't top the structure and the brick and just the way it looks, the aesthetics. And one of the important things that they said is they wanted it to feel like a park. And that's why everything is green there. And that's why you got the ivy in the outfield. It feels very natural. And I thought that was a cool point. Compared to Angel Stadium, now I will say it probably is easier to get in and out of Angel Stadium because Wrigley Field is in that neighborhood. Yeah. And when we parked, fortunately, it was an off day, so we were able to see a little bit more of the stadium. But it said event parking, $50. Man, I've never paid $50 to park at Angel Stadium, and I don't think I ever will.
Right.
And so that was a significant note for me, was just realizing like, it would be difficult to get in and out of here. Now, of course, they have those awesome bleachers on top of the apartment buildings. That's really fun. And just to see the old school scoreboard out there, that's pretty fun as well. And then the bleachers, they have general admission bleachers for regular games during the season. Now, during the playoffs, they're marked because they have to have a capacity for playoff games, right?
Yeah.
But it is cool that they have those general admission bleachers out there. And I have to say, I was thrilled as a baseball fan to go and see that stadium. And I bought myself a hat. I got my Cubs hat. Let me get that here. Bought myself a Cubs hat because I want to get a hat at every stadium that I go to. Nice. And I was really excited to do that this time around. And
how fun.
Yeah, it was amazing. I will say that the bathrooms at Old Wrigley Field are in much better shape than Angel Stadium. So we need to renovate a little bit. We could use some updates at Angel Stadium.
Well, listen, Artie's trying to buy the stadium, but then there was a problem and some backdoor gambling and backdoor deals. And so they're trying to figure that out, John. So
Disney's involved.
Give them some grace, right? What was it like? What was it like to follow the Angels in the Central Time Zone instead of the West Coast Time Zone?
This is brutal, man. So you guys know, if you've been listening to the show and watching online, I've been in different locations almost every night, and to watch the Angels 2 hours ahead, to see a start time of 9:07 on Saturday night, I was like, what? Where am I? And so I feel for our friends in the UK. I know we have a lot of UK fans on Twitter who follow the Angels, and man, it's got to be rough to watch it hours ahead like they do. But yeah, just even 2 hours ahead. The games were over at midnight, and then you and I would have to do a show afterward. And so that's not something that I want to do ever again, but,
No.
but to follow them 2 hours ahead, it was really odd because you saw the light at the stadium still. And I was like, it's dark outside. So we had a blast, man. And it was so great to tour Wrigley and get that history. I was over the moon. I was like a kid in a candy store, and we got some souvenirs afterward. And I picked up this Seiya Suzuki shirt because he loves Trout and I love Trout. And so a friend of my friend is a friend of mine. Is that how the saying goes? I don't know. But anyway, it was a great trip. I really appreciate you guys bearing with me as I tried to fly back yesterday. We missed our connecting flight to LA because our plane was late coming out of Chicago. So we had an extra night in Vegas. Did not take advantage of that because we were exhausted. So, but all in all, it was a great trip. Chicago is a great city. Mike, I know that you and the family want to get out there. I'd recommend it to anybody who wants to get out there. Get some deep dish while you're out there. We went to Giordano's and it was awesome. And nothing like it, man. There's just really nothing like it. So my kind of town, Chicago is.
That's good.
Well, I had a great time in Chicago, and somebody who's actually making this season a great time for us Angel fans is Taylor Ward.
Yes.
Who really, we did not expect this kind of production out of Taylor Ward. And I would even go as far to say, and maybe Mike, you agree with me, the Angels MVP right now, Taylor Ward, because that guy
absolutely
is crushing it. He's crushing it right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we saw how important his bat is in that lineup with that injury. He ran into the wall and it kind of gave him a stinger, and he didn't have any strength in his arm for a while, his throwing arm. And we saw how that changed the trajectory of the Angels lineup, the batting order.
Yeah. So let's look at his stats for a moment, John, because these stats are remarkable. So he's hitting .359 going into today's game against the Yanks. Mm-hmm. His career high is .277 in 2017.
Wow.
And he only played 34 games that year. And so he's crushing it. He's got 10 home runs. His previous career high was last year, 8 home runs. And then his OPS right now is 1.181. He's leading the league in OPS. And his previous high was 769.
Wow. So totally different guy.
He is a completely different guy, and he has 25 walks this season. His career high was 24. So he's already surpassed that. And then I love projected stats. I know that they're not probably what the player will get to, but based upon how he's playing right now, here's the projected stats. 48 home runs, 119 walks. I mean,
wow.
That would be an MVP, not just for the Angels, but MVP for the entire American League.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Now, let's talk about his patience, because he does have a lot of walks. And the thing that I'm really, really intrigued by is how often he swings and how often he actually holds back. And so Baseball Savant is a great website to see these stats if you're a nerd like John and I. And what we found out is that 60% of Taylor Ward's swings are at balls in the zone.
And you can see that. It's very clear when he's at the plate. You can see that he's not chasing. He's not swinging at junk. He's attacking. That's what I think has changed for him. He's attacking. And we brought this up on the show before, but he was noted as saying that he's looking for a pitch. He's not thinking about the count. He's looking for a pitch in the zone. And he's proven that. And honestly, it seems like really basic, simple, approach to the plate,
right?
And you'd think every batter does that, but he just seems to do it so well. And he really is not chasing junk. He's somebody that when you see him up there, you can feel confident in that his at bat is going to be productive one way or another.
Well, here's proof of what you just said. So of balls in the zone, Ward has hit 82% of those pitches successfully, and he's only chased 16% of pitches that were thrown outside of the zone.
That's crazy.
Isn't that amazing? Crazy. And as the leadoff hitter, he has a .464 on base percentage. But here's what's really remarkable about Ward is that the Angels are 24 runs better with Taylor leading off versus any other leadoff hitter so far this year.
I believe it. It's funny. We had conversations preseason about who's going to lead off for the Angels. Is it Marsh? Is it Fletcher? Who would have expected Taylor Ward? And when he does lead off, nobody picked that. And when he does lead off, like I said, it changes the whole trajectory of the lineup. Instead of Ohtani leading off or Marsh, you have Ward, Ohtani, Trout, Rendon when he's healthy, Walsh, like it just shapes this lineup so well in such a better position. And the through line of great hitters, I think, changes when Taylor Ward is at the top.
Yeah, one of the questions from yesterday was about like, should we be concerned about this lineup and about the offense, or should we make a trade and maybe go get a bat? I'm of the opinion that this fully healthy lineup, when they're all together, they've proven to be really successful. And with Taylor Ward at the start, with Taylor Ward leading off, it seems to just be the fire starter that we need for this team, like Eckstein was in 2002, right?
Yeah.
Taylor Ward seems to be that for us. And not only offensively, but defensively, he's actually played really, really well. He's in the top percentile of right fielders. He's 94% out of 100, which means, in other words, he ranks in the top 10 in right fielders on the defensive side in the game.
That's impressive.
Today.
That's impressive because you wouldn't have expected that coming into the season because he's moved around so much. Poor guy's moved around so much from catcher to third base and now the outfield. And now that he's locked in the outfield, it's really kind of thrown a curveball into the Angels outfield situation because I know we're trying out different guys while Taylor Ward wasn't able to play the outfield. Hopefully Sunday is a good note to see that he is back in right field and
ready to go.
And even with the short porch at Yankee Stadium, he doesn't have a lot of ground to cover in right. So that might be to his benefit in this season. So let's ask this question, Mike. Is Ward the Angels MVP?
I think he is 150,000%. I mean,
That's a lot. Wow.
The guy has proven to be a really, really great player. So I'll throw this back on you now. So is Taylor Ward an all-star?
Yes, 100% an all-star. I am concerned he won't get voted in.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the cachet, if you will, the name
recognition, right?
Recognition is there. However, any smart manager, let's see, it would be the Astros and the Braves manager. So Ron Wash and who's the Braves manager right now? I can't think of his name, but
I can't either.
I guess it would be Washington though. He would be the one who would get to select Taylor Ward as an outfielder.
It'd be Dusty Baker, right?
Oh, why am I saying Washington?
Yeah.
Washington's with the Braves, but he's not the manager. He's a bench coach.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dusty Baker would be able to select Taylor Ward as the manager.
Yeah.
As an outfielder. I'm all mixed up. That time change killed me.
I was going to say, you flew in, right? You flew in. One more question for you. Is Taylor Ward the American League MVP?
That is going to be a wait and see for me.
Okay.
Because I think we talked about Aaron Judge. We talked about Mike Trout, who is also making another case for MVP.
Yeah.
And I know projections are projections and not always 100% solidified. But I mean, by all accounts, if he continues this season that he's having, he's going to be in that conversation 100%.
Yeah.
And he'll be top 5 MVP voting, in my opinion.
Yeah. You know who might know? Sully. Paul Francis Sullivan. That guy
has transition.
He has so much good information about baseball, and we appreciate you making Locked On Angels your first listen. You should make Sully's podcast your second listen. It's Locked On MLB podcast, and he brings his unique perspective on the major leagues past and present, and it's free and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, if you want to connect with us, make sure to follow us on Twitter at Locked On Angels. Of course, you can connect with Mike and I at Super Halo Bros on both Twitter and Instagram. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's episode?
Well, since we're playing the Yankees, I want to take you back a little over a year ago. There was this rumor about the Angels trading for Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
And so John and I are going to talk about that potential trade and if we would make that trade today.
I like that conversation. All right, y'all. Until tomorrow's episode, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
And we'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Angels.